Hold fast to your dreams, for when dreams go, life is a barren field covered with snow. Hold fast to your dreams, for when dreams die, life is like a bird that cannot fly. I'm Laura English Robinson, a native of Atlanta, and also a graduate diamond daughter of Spelman College, which means I finished Spelman 55 years ago, 55 plus years ago. It's a place that I've known for a long time, and I worked in the music department here as a voice instructor and coordinator of some of the applied arts studies. I have known of Spelman since I was a baby. I came to the Christmas Carol concerts every year, and that was in the beautiful Sisters Chapel, and it was the most beautiful music, women's voices, and of course that was the Morehouse College Glee Club. They were a part of that too, but it was something that drew me for my life to women's voices. And I just thought, my father and my mother both said that I would always say, oh, I just want to sing with them. And so I've been surrounded by Spelman all of my life, and I knew of other colleges, but I think I was just destined to come here. And it wasn't anything that I questioned. I felt very comfortable in accepting the calling. And it was the best place for me to be. Absolutely. When I came to Spelman, I wanted to major in science and or home economics, which was fabric and whatever they called that then, but it wasn't just a sewing class. It was knowing research about different fabrics. And the science part really happened when I was in high school. I would do science projects, and I loved it, but my science projects were always creative. They were, detailed for what it was for, but I wouldn't just have, balloons as little, modules of orbit activity. My balloons had color or they had a certain design. And I think that was just part of the creativity in me that was going to be observed or included in almost anything that I did. And in the home economics, that was sort of the cooking classes as well as the fabric. I was always tapped on the wrist about adding something to a recipe. You were supposed to go by the book. Well, I did go by the book, but I didn't like the way it tastes. So I was, gently adding my own little spices, because I got that from my grandmother. No women in my family cooked with a cookbook. And the instructor would say, no, we have to study the chemistry of food. And so I did okay, but I wasn't too happy in that environment of structure, and not being able to be creative. And so, but I was singing in the Glee Club here since a freshman. Dr. Willis Lawrence James was the director of the Glee Club when I came. And I had seen him, like I said, in the music, Christmas Carol concerts and all the beautiful music. And he was a folklorist himself, so he was composing. And he had a very strong influence on me, but he also, in a very gentle way, was encouraging me to come on and get started with music now. You belong. See, the science building was over on the other side of campus, and he would always meet me mid-campus and walk me to Glee Club. And he had this little, Barry voice. He said, what are you doing? You need to change your major. Come on now. Let's get this right. And so, I was just kind of timid, and I said, okay, Dr. James. But I did change my major. I was away from Spelman between my sophomore year and my junior year. And part of that was to decide how I was going to continue if I was still I thought I was torn between these two disciplines, when in fact, I felt, here again, the calling to music, a very strong pull, and it was without any kind of reservation. Dr. James passed. I was with him for 2 years, my freshman and sophomore year. So when I left to sort of clear my own head during that year between sophomore and coming back as a junior, that was the year that he passed. So then when I came back to Spelman, that was the beginning of the legacy of Roland Allison. And I had already decided during that time away and, working and thinking and still singing, because I was still singing at my church. Coretta Scott King was one of my early teachers, just in the community, in the church, a person who wanted to help me as I was exploring a life or thinking about a career, maybe not thinking about it, but as I was exploring and preparing for a career in music. I had a lot of people who just wanted to be nurturing, and she was one of them. And so I think all of that was taking shape. And so when I came back as a junior, I was clearly dedicated to music and the arts. And that's when I met Dr. Roland Allison. And he was my voice teacher, as well as I had him in the classroom in music history. And I had him in Glee Club. So that was no way I was going to avoid him in my life. And he knew my parents very well. He was the kind of teacher, that got to know the students. And he made a very strong impact in my development, and in my development. And almost even after graduation, he advised me about graduate school, where he thought what the best fit would be for me. He went to Indiana. I went to the College Conservatory of Music, Cincinnati. And he thought that would be a good fit for me. Don't follow where he went, but where he thought I should go. And that was perfect. And he hired me right out of graduate school. Well, I taught for 2 years at Morris Brown. But he saw an end to that in a nice way. But he hired me to come to Spelman and start teaching in this department at the beginning of my teaching career. I think Spelman is an institution that offers us not only a wonderful education, but offers us the opportunity to identify with who we really are and to think. I haven't agreed with every decision that a student of mine has had, but I hear them out. And I think it's important to listen before we decide for them. Listen before we decide you don't have an answer. And Spelman was that kind of fertile ground for me. And sometimes I did not know that was a part of the mold. But it was, and to realize it later is when I really think it's important. And so I try to, as a student, I got that sort of nurturing for 4 years. I saw women around this campus who were working, who were tops in their field, but who were also living their lives every day at this institution, as well as, I'm sure, in their private lives. But we didn't see them just in the classroom, and that's it. And I think that's the nature of this college, that you learn your students, you learn with your students, and you help them develop, knowing that you're not going to. I have not totally developed any of my students, but I want them to leave Spelman with a foundation. From that foundation, things can build. If they don't have the foundation and they have to start all over again when they get to the next level, I haven't done my job. And so I tell them, and when they come back, we have these conversations about what they're doing, the questions they still have in their lives, the things that they are still questioning. And I said, that's all right. You're supposed to go through those transitory periods when you don't have the answer, but you have something to keep you going while you are finding where you need to be. Something kept me going while I was finding where I needed to be. And I share that with them because that's the communication that I think you can have, and that's the real dialogue that you can have with students. And I think that's important because I had teachers that shared dialogue with me here at Spelman, and they didn't come across as if they knew it all. And I needed to be told. I needed to be listened to. Then we evaluate. And sometimes they would leave me thinking about what the conversation had been all about. Some of the things that I have discussed with some of the students as they are moving to the next level is, first of all, be true to yourself. Be true to your artistry. Make sure that you're still trying to be your very best. Prepare yourself for whatever the next step is, or whatever the same step is. But the important thing, we all want to win. You want to do it. I was that way. I did a Fulbright competition, and I didn't win. I thought I had really sung well, and I really just kind of had a downtime when I just thought, well, maybe it's just not for me. And I was explaining it to my father, who didn't understand why I was just so down. And he said, did you do your best? And I said, yes, I thought I did, but I didn't win. And so we had the conversation, and he said, if you did your best, God will take care of the rest. And I believe that. But the thing that happened, one of the judges, I was in New York singing for something else, and one of the judges was there. And I knew of her career, and I, spoke to her after the performance. And she said, these may not be her exact words, but she said, you sang so well for the Fulbright, and I'm glad that I'm hearing you again. But that year, Fulbright was not looking for sopranos. They were looking for tenors. They can't tell you that when you go for the competition. So I tell the students, don't ever limit yourself to that judge or those three judges. You sing as if there are other people there, or you sing your best for them, because that's just a one-shot situation, and there can be others. So I have told that story many times. And then I tell them, when you're singing for a competition, it's still a performance. So don't try to be so overly perfect that you forget to be real. And when you're always giving, somebody, whether it's those judges or those judges can say something to, the network can really grow. And somebody knows somebody else. And I've had many jobs as a soloist because I did one thing that, sort of spiraled into something else. So I just tell them, don't limit yourself. Don't limit the opportunity. And if you're going to perform whatever it is, just make sure it's your best, because you never know who's listening. You never know what report they can take somewhere else. And everything is important on that level of giving honestly. And if you don't win that prize, just make sure you walk away feeling that you're still a winner. Spelman nurtures, I think, the total woman. Spelman nurtures ideas, and I think we try to listen to students when they think they don't have anyone to talk to. Now, it's not just sitting down having these idle conversations. You can do that if you want to over lunch. But I think there's sometimes when students have found a person, a teacher, a classroom environment where they feel comfortable to express their ideas as they are learning new ideas. And so I often tell, and I still sign off when students text me about things they're doing, when I see them, when they are about to do a competition, when they've entered a competition, those who are in New York, I often fly up to New York just to celebrate their performance. As I can't come all the time now. But I want to be there to see them in that next phase of their life and to celebrate with them. But I tell them, hold fast to your dreams. For when dreams go, life is a barren field covered with snow. Hold fast to your dreams, for when dreams die, life is like a bird that cannot fly. That's one of the shortest poems written by Langston Hughes. And I share it with students as a salutation, as a sign-off, when I've seen them, when they tell me, that what they're doing, and just so happy for them. And I always, instead of saying sincerely, Miss Robinson, I will say hold fast to your dreams, because that's what we have to do. It doesn't mean you tighten your fist around something, but you try to create an idea for your life. And the idea is going to grow, it's going to change. But at least have an idea for yourself, and perhaps a few goals that you can set for yourself that someone can help you, navigate. And I hope that most of the students that leave here have some idea of what the next step will be, or at least have some idea what they want to do in order, for that next step to happen. I don't often know, I'll say, I never know what the next step is going to be. But I keep them in my thoughts, mind, and hope that whatever those next steps are, it will be good for them. If it's not, they will have experienced it, and they, sort of pirouette from it to something else. But there are no perfect answers. And I tell the students all the time, I don't have all the answers. We can share some thoughts together and evolve to something that out of the conversation you can take with you. But I think we have to keep encouraging, and I want their next step to be a giant step, knowing that they have to take some baby steps, but I want you to experience a giant step at some point and say, yeah, I did that. Every student that comes to Spelman, every student in the Glee Club is not going to be a singer, a musician, but they will have experienced something in the arts that makes them appreciate their environment, appreciate their nature, appreciate their world, their ethnicity, the global world that we live in now, and always leave them open to ideas, be it music, be it science, be it literature, be it art, or whatever. I have taught in my private teaching, I have taught 2 doctors. I have sung on the concert stage, Symphony Hall, with 4. They're beautiful voices, but no one would know or have to ask, are you a doctor? No, at that moment, they are a performer. And so I think that's where music can find its way into our lives in many different ways. It's just not just a one-track thing. And it opens up the soul and the heart of the person. And that's what you give to other people in healing, in appreciating, and in inspiring.